disabled people are 25% of the working age population, and it always feels like we're being accommodated or we're getting special treatment. But actually, I suppose in terms of being legislators, etc., we are citizens, we're part of the population, and everything should be designed with us in mind. Workplaces, work, transport, housing, social care, etc., etc. And it often feels like in these discussions that, we're asking for special pleading or something, and I just don't think that's the case. I think the case is, if you're an employer, you need to think that the workforce is made up of a diverse group of people, men and women, disabled, non-disabled, LGBTQ and not, etc., and design with that in mind. And I always feel like we're kind of a bit on the back foot thinking, well, how do we make this better for disabled people, when actually if people just designed things more inclusively, including employment, it would help enormously. And actually, you don't actually have to employ any disabled people to have the disability confident mark at the moment.
No, you don't.
So, yeah. I mean, that kind of says it all. It's a good kind of envelope that needs something in it to make it a bit more real and a bit more significant. And, there's no doubt that disabled people aren't confident to say they have an impairment or health condition at work. In fact, millions don't. And as Charlie Mayfield found out, that means that you can't have the conversation with the employer early enough because the disabled person is worried about how the employer will respond. I think Claire was talking earlier about the stigma of disability, and that's very real for a lot of disabled people in work. I always remember the NHS staff survey says that the people completing that, 24% say they're disabled, but if you look at the employee record for the NHS, only 4 or 5% say they're disabled. So it gives you quite a good indication that millions of disabled people aren't comfortable talking about impairments or health conditions at work. Because if you have I've got the right to a reasonable adjustment at work, but do I really want to litigate that right? Probably not, because work's a kind of quite a delicate ecosystem. The power relationship, the employer has more power than me as an employee. And actually, I want to be able to be somewhere where the employer recognises that it's an obligation of theirs to make that adjustment. I don't want to bring a case. I don't want to start a grievance, etc., etc. So I think maybe it's more important that employers understand what a reasonable adjustment is. And I'd like government to really think about what levers it has to begin to move the UK's workforce into being much more flexible and inclusive workforce. And I'd really like chief executives and managers at the top to really shout about inclusion and shout about their own disabilities when they've got them, which a lot of them must have, because a lot of them are quite old. So I just think, we just need more people at the top really shouting about disability inclusion.